Great. So you should see a little thing on your screen that says it's recording.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So thank you guys for coming again. I appreciate it. I know you've been through this. I've tried to be cognizant of that and add some new things to it to try and give you some more information, because we haven't done this before, but you know, I'm always learning things, so I'd like to incorporate it in, and I have a few more stories of clients that I've dealt with that can share experiences. And of course, I like to start out with a cheesy joke, and I learned a new cheesy joke yesterday, so I'm going to say it now, whether you like it or not, and you can pretend to laugh at the end of it. I'd appreciate that. So, you know, when you're downsizing and when you get to this age, you kind of have a bucket list, right, of things that you want to do. And one of the things on my bucket list is going to Australia. Oh, hang on a second. Did we lose you, Arlene? And now you're back? Okay. One of my things on my bucket list is going to Australia. So we were talking about it with friends the other night and talking about our bucket list. And one of the people on said, you know, I'd really like to go bungee jumping. What do you think of that? And has anybody ever gone bungee jumping before? Would you like to go? My husband said, you know what? I've only been once. And it was and the only time I've been is when I was born, and I haven't been again, and I don't want to go. So that's my.
No, it certainly wouldn't be on my bucket list.
So thank you for laughing at my new joke. So let's get this going. Sorry, there we go. Okay. So this series there's 4 sessions that I've put together for the series. I have, this one is going to be about where to start and kind of the framework of the plan. And I've kind of done a bit more thinking and tweaking about how to put a plan together for you. The second one is going to deal with your belongings. So Claire, who was on the sessions before that you may have seen, is going to again talk about that, how to sort through, what to do. Ooh, there we go. So I'm just letting somebody else into the room. Shirley, are you there? Okay. So Claire is going to come on. She is going to talk about dealing with your stuff. Again, I've done this a couple of times this year with people whose homes I've sold where they weren't able to do it themselves. On the third session, we're going to talk about housing options. And because I'm doing it virtually, I have a few more housing options I found out about. And we can obviously, on the computer, look at things that have sold, look at things that are available, and do some other options that we wouldn't necessarily be able to do in person because of distance. So that's exciting. And then the last session is about preparing your home for a sale. And now in the afternoon, somebody brought up a good point, is maybe you start preparing your home for a sale in a different order than I've got them ordered, because sometimes that takes the longest to do. So just kind of keep that in mind. Each plan is going to be depending on what your needs are. And as we go through, you know, ask me questions and contribute. That would be great. I've got some quizzes built into this one. The 2 new things that I'm going to do this year, I'm going to follow this 4-week session up with a community shredding event. So I don't have a date set yet, but what I'm planning to do is bring one of those big trucks to a location where you can bring all of your old receipts and papers and financial statements and everything in a box over to it. It won't cost you anything. We'll do some fundraising or for a food drive. I haven't decided yet. Probably this will happen in September. And then you can get rid of a bunch of your old papers if you have some sitting around. I find that people have different kind of little secret collections of things when I go to help them downsize and help with the house, and having a whole bunch of paper and old receipts and maybe even stuff handed down from your parents that you weren't sure what to do with, old tax receipts and things like that, linger for a while, and then it becomes a big chore to try and shred them, or what do you do with them? So I'm going to do this,
Yeah.
see if I can help people with that. And
Yeah.
then let everybody know where it's going to be. And then after the 4 weeks, I'm also going to put out there a 30-day decluttering challenge. And that will be kind of like a task every day. I'm going to participate too. I have a Facebook group out, so we can put some things on the Facebook group to try and sort through some of the things in an organized way and get everybody started on, doing that with some support. So those things are new. So hopefully you'll take part in that. Okay. Any questions on that? No? Do you like the idea
No, I spent,
of shredding?
yeah, I spent 2 hours today shredding. So.
Yeah. Well, they come, it's like one of those trucks that come and do an office, so that that
Yeah, that's
nobody's going to be looking at your private information or anything. They do it securely.
yeah.
So you don't have to do any more. You can save it for a little later.
Okay.
So putting together a plan, this is kind of the framework of what I'm going to talk about and how I structured this. So the first thing you really need to do is get your head wrapped around if a move is the right thing to do. And some of this is not just deciding what to do. Sometimes it's deciding what you don't want to do, but just thinking it through so you're happy with whatever plan you settle on. In a lot of cases, I've met people through these downsizing seminars that I did in person, and they came to the tours and looked at the condos, and they called me and they go, we're going to go right to a retirement home. This is what we decided is best for us. So, but this helped them think through this. So sometimes it's a process of elimination, not a process of adding on. And that's good. That's what I want everybody to try and figure out. So you can share it with your family and get their support too. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to decide when a move is right, what motivates you. And then this session, I'm also going to go back over the financial pre-planning aspect of it and just summarize some of the budgetary things that you need to think about in the process of moving so that you have all of that sorted out and you're not worried about that. In the other 3 sessions, we're going to talk about dealing with your stuff, the housing options, and preparing and selling your home. Is there anything anybody else had a question about that I didn't cover on here? And I'll write a note and try and answer it as we go through. No? Everybody good? 2 thumbs up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, how long does this all take? Because, everybody that's here, we've talked before, we've met before, and probably people are thinking, wow, I wonder how long this whole process takes. Am I like other people, or are other people different? And I'll say, if people are on a schedule, sometimes it takes hours. Sometimes I get a phone call and people want to do it right away. Sometimes it takes months, sometimes it takes years. I found during COVID, and I don't know if you're in this kind of bucket, that the people that I met that had been thinking about a downsize several years ago, during COVID, they just kind of locked their doors and didn't do anything. They were worried about moving. They were worried about, being out in public. Maybe some people had some health issues. They didn't want to be social. So they really kind of stopped that process. And then as COVID relaxed since the fall, people started to pick up these thoughts again and started to do something. So it's really individual, and it can take as long as you want it to. If you've been in your house a long time, you might want to think about doing stuff to your house earlier, just because that can take a while. Contractors get busy that are good, and there's still some supply chain issues with getting materials. So if you're planning on doing something physically to your house, starting earlier the better will help you along the way. And that's different than COVID, when before that you could get material and stuff like that pretty quickly. So you guys have been on this before, I like to do little quizzes in here. And just to get you sorted out with how the quizzes work, I'm just going to do a fun quiz to start. And this is for me to get it done too. So what I'm going to do is I've got a few quizzes in here. The first quiz just gets you sorted with how this works. And it's what's your favorite fast food? And I am going to launch this. So you guys should be able to see this. Can you see this now? What's your favorite fast
Yes,
food?
certainly.
Okay.
Oh, the burger.
Yeah. So you should be able to click on it. I think you can only make one choice here, not multiple choice. I'm going to say,
Yeah.
so, and then we can share the results. All right. And not letting me vote. I'm voting for coffee and donuts, by the way, but I don't seem to be able to. Okay, here we go. Okay, so here we go, and the results are in. And you should be able to see here that we have burgers by a nose. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yes,
Good. Okay.
but the donuts are pretty good too.
You know, I am going to share this with Judy and Shirley, the Judys and Shirley, that Arlene and I live out near Port Union, and about a year and a half ago, they put a Krispy Kreme donut near us, and it's a whole factory with donuts, and it's a very dangerous place to live near. I don't know if you've been there, Arlene.
Yeah, you don't dare go by even.
They're quite yummy.
Yes. I drive by quickly.
Quickly, yeah. Thank goodness it doesn't have a drive-through. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the kind of meat of what we're doing here. And that is, creating that plan and remembering that if you start the plan early, you're going to be able to plan with choice and not be forced into a plan because of your circumstances changing. And planning with choice allows you to kind of think through what you'd like to do, talk it over with your friends, talk it over with your family, get their support, and have those plans in place so that they can be able to help and support you on whatever path you want to go on. It's awful when you meet somebody who's had a health crisis, because that generally changes your circumstance, and then they haven't thought through this, and it is very, very stressful situation. So I want to make sure that everybody's got a plan in place, whatever it is. And, there's a lot of emotions you're going to go through this process. A lot of my clients, it depends on the day and the hour sometimes, whether they're stressed or happy or excited. And these are some of the things that trigger those emotions. So just understand that that is normal. And this type of move is different than when you did a move in your 30s or 40s, when it was pretty easy to do. You were looking forward to the move. You had some people to help you. It was just something that you did. You might have been working and having kids and you move and it was no big deal, where it seems to be a bigger deal the longer you've been in your home. And certainly with my mother going through it and helping her, she found that the little decisions that you have to make on the way weighed on her mind more than they would have if she had been younger. And I think that that's typical. So as long as you can recognize those things and expect them, I find that they're easier to deal with. You can always go, oh yeah, Sue told me that would happen. So it's a big step, and it's natural to feel anxious. And, I get this comment from clients all the time. Oh, I was lying in bed last night and I woke up and I thought of this and this and this and this and this, and I just was worried. So write it down, call me and talk to me. I usually have my phone on till, I don't know, 10 or 11, and people can text me. They always say they won't, but when it's on your mind, you wanted the answer right away so that you can go to sleep. So it's a stressful situation, but having somebody to help you that's gone through it before with lots of clients, I can tell you what you're going to go through and expect. And these are some of the things that come up when I'm helping clients. So they get anxious. They're worried about whether their house will sell. They're worried about whether the house will sell for the price that we thought it would sell for based on our research. They're worried about the move and whether they'll like the right place. A really big worry for people is if they would make the right decision along the way. Because you'll find in any of this, the decisions may need to be made quickly. And a lot of people don't like the pressure of having to make those quick decisions, and it makes them anxious and nervous. And really the root of that is the worry that they make the wrong decision. People get stressed about how they can manage everything. There's a lot of people that don't have kids in the area to support them, or family, or the friends have moved away. So they feel a little bit like they're hanging in the wind to get this done. So where do you find the resources that stresses them out? A lot of people find that when they come to me and I'll go, well, I can do that, and I can do that, and I can do that. That helps ease that stress. And then it helps the stress of the kids too, because sometimes the kids who want to help don't live close enough. And if I can step in and do that, then that helps the kids know that their parents are taken care of too. They don't know where to find the resources because, that's hard to do. There's no one single source. And again, uncomfortable. A lot of people are uncomfortable with the speed at the decisions that need to be made now, because just we're living in a society where everything's electronic and we can do things a lot faster than we did before, especially in real estate where it was done by fax and in person and all of those things that were just generally a little bit slower. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. But the big thing to know is you don't have to go through this alone. The reason I do this is because I like to be able to follow the process from the start till the end, rather than have people you just sell a house and that's all you do. And then you're left trying to do everything else on your own, dealing with the contents of your house, trying to sort out all of that stuff. And what I really like to hear is with the people that are stressed is at the end of it, when they say, hey, why didn't I do this before? It would have been easier 10 years ago. I'm so happy where I ended up. It took a bit to get there, but I should have done this before, because, I'm so happy when it's over. All that stress of having the big house and everything is gone. And that's what I like to hear from clients. Most of them say this at the end, which makes me happy. So now I have another quiz. So I'm sure everybody has their own thoughts and feelings about the downsizing process. So I have another little quiz here, and I'm going to stop that. And get out of there. Bear with me while I try and pop this next quiz up. This will be my, oh, here we go. I think I have to do it like this. I'm just talking to myself here. Don't ignore me. There we go. Okay. So this little quiz, the feeling.
Long as you don't expect me to,
Pardon me?
long as you don't expect me to answer while you're talking to yourself.
No. Okay, so this is about what feelings and emotions. Now, I will tell you that I don't know who answers these. It doesn't have your name associated with this. It just says how many people have participated. So this one should be multiple choice. If you take a look at all of the things that people go through in terms of their emotions, you can kind of let me know where your head is when you read through them. Okay. All right, I am going to share the results. Everybody's voted. Sorry, I thought I made this multiple choice, but apparently I didn't. Can you see the results there?
No.
No?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, 70, 75, and 25, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that's really, really a common fear, is making a decision that you will regret afterwards. And sometimes what I do is, if you have a support network, even if they're not here, your friends or your family, I try and get them involved in it so that you've got a sounding board other than, a real estate agent that's working with you, right? Whether sometimes it's a lawyer, sometimes mostly it's family. I usually get the adult family children involved in it. Through Zoom is fantastic because you can do this with people all over the country. And one house I sold in the fall, their family was spread out from Pickering to Newfoundland. And so we would all be on a Zoom call together and go through everything, and then they could meet me. And some of the daughters were in person, and we met in person, but it was really helpful for them to know that they had their daughters there and they had met me and we were all working as a team. So think about that, who you would like involved or not involved. Some people don't want their kids involved. They want to make the kids, sometimes there's friction between what the kids want and what the parents want, and they still want to be independent and they don't want their kids involved. So it's really up to you how involved family gets, but I find it quite helpful for people.
I involve the kids to see if they'll take the stuff.
Yeah, I will tell you that the kids don't want your stuff right now, in most cases. So
I gave my piano away at Christmas time.
You
That's
did?
good.
Well, that's good. A lot of times.
Yes, I gave it to my oldest.
Oh, that's good. And in some cases, the kids don't want it. In some cases, they fight over it, and in some cases, they want everything. And in some cases, they help sell it, right? So everybody's different the way that it works for them. And sometimes
This is helpful, doing one thing at a time, like.
Yeah. Sometimes the stuff in your house is your kids' stuff. So even getting them come to take it away because they may be in a condo or something, that becomes a challenge. And sometimes people collect.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a few stories. Sometimes people collect things, and that becomes difficult to manage. Okay. So how do you decide when a move is right? Like, what is the stimulus for somebody to say it's time? Within the next year, I plan to be X, Y, and Z. Well, there's usually people fit into a few categories. This is my experience with most of the people that I work with, that they fall into kind of one of these four buckets, that there's a physical aspects to their home that don't fit them anymore. There's a financial component to it. There is a lifestyle change that they would like to make. So that's that bucket list kind of thing. And then there's something that's triggered by health. And I think this past year, I've dealt with people that are in each of those little categories. So when I say your physical house doesn't match your lifestyle anymore, it can be a combination of any or all of these things. So the house just has too many rooms. You're really only living in your family room, your dining room if you entertain, your kitchen, and your laundry room to do laundry, and your bedroom. So you're only living in 4 or 5 homes and 4 or 5 rooms, and you may have 3 or 4 bedrooms and a basement that you're not using and that you still have to maintain and look after. That you have too much outside work to do. So you've got a big lot. It requires a fair amount of landscaping. You may hire people to do it, but they don't do it the way you like it. It's becoming cumbersome. The house is more dated than you would like. You'd really like to live in something a little bit more modern and like you're seeing on TV, but the thought of renovating is too big a job. And then where do you start and how much money do you put in it at a time when you've got retirement funds you're living on? The cost of repairs is climbing up. So if anybody's done any renovations since COVID, you'll find that the actual material costs is skyrocketed, and sometimes it's hard to find material to get. if you want to repair an appliance that, it's very hard to get repair people in. You may have big ticket items on the horizon. So your furnace might be 20 years old. Your air conditioner might be 25 years old. Your roof might be 15 years old. There may be some stuff that's coming up that you don't want to have to deal with, because it's going to be things that you have to do, but you're not going to be able to, enjoy them really. You may have too many stairs. A lot of times your laundry's in the basement, and then you've got, even if you can deal with those stairs, you have to lug laundry up and down, and that becomes difficult. You may be living in a place where it's too far to drive, or you're cutting back on your driving, and you'd rather have some amenities closer. And then a couple of people I've met have had several properties, right? They have a big house with a nice yard, they have a cottage, and they have a place in Florida, and it's just too much. All they were doing is taking care of these properties, and they weren't enjoying their time, because it was their 100% of their time was looking after property, and they wanted to stop that. It was great when they had little kids, but not when they were at this age. In terms of finances, I have met people where they work with a financial planner, and at some point the financial planner says, you need to get the equity out of your home to fund the rest of your retirement. And it's really, that's where their savings are mostly, and they need to sell the house to be able to do that. And in some cases with the home's equity now, you may find that you've got kids or grandkids or somebody that can't get into the real estate market unless they get some help with the down payment, because the house prices are so high. And you may want to unlock some equity to bequest some money while you're alive, and you can see them do it rather than to wait. And then again, the financial upkeep feels overwhelming, and maybe you can simplify things by a move, whether it's a rental or a condo or whatever. It's just that burden is much less if you're in that type of property. That makes sense?
Sue, are you in a position to address reverse mortgages, or what are your thoughts on them?
I was just going to touch upon that. So a reverse mortgage is basically a home equity line of credit, but you don't have to pay it off monthly like you would a regular equity line of credit. You pay it off at the end. And it costs more. The charge to set
But when
yeah. Go ahead.
When you sell your house, there may not be enough equity in it to take to your retirement.
Yes, but you don't owe them money at the end. So you always keep some equity in the house. They don't let you they don't lend you the entire value of the house. It's a percentage based on your age and the value of the home. Right. So they may lend you 50% of the value of your house.
Mm-hmm.
But you do eat away your equity, because when you go to sell the house, you pay back that. But you're never in the hole. They guarantee you don't owe them money at the end of it. And the big benefit is you don't pay it down while you've got it. You only pay it down at the end.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And it costs more. The interest rates are more. They change as the market changes, and it does cost you to set it up. It costs you a few $1,000s to set it up, but you have to kind of sit down with a reverse mortgage specialist to go through what those numbers would be. But it's a good option if you want to stay in your house, or if you want to use money for renovation, or you want to age in place and use that money to help you if you have some health problems, bring professionals in and things like that. That's what it's good for.
Okay.
And you don't have to use it just on this property. You could do it on your next property. So you could, for instance, if your plan is to move to a townhouse, you can sell your home, use the funds to buy the townhouse outright, and then if you decide you need to do a reverse mortgage, you do it on the townhouse. It doesn't have to be on the house. It could be on a condo.
Oh, okay. I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Okay. Lifestyle changes, sometimes prompt a move. Your kids have moved out, the neighbors have moved away, so you're feeling that the neighborhood dynamic has changed. Some people lose a spouse and they feel sad staying in the house, or the house feels a bit empty if the kids have gone. Some people find that their friends have moved to a place like a retirement community, or they find out about a place that's an active adult lifestyle community. And the prospect of being able to go where there's a bunch of people that are in your own situation, where you can make new friends and remain active and have a big social calendar, is very appealing. Sometimes it's just a desire to simplify your life and be free of a large property. In some cases, people, decide to move back downtown if you like the theater and want to be in the thick of things. They don't just make a move into their own neighborhood. They make the move into a different lifestyle, or down by the beach, or have something where it's near the water, where they really feel that fulfills them. Or you can take that money and go traveling if you want. So you can take that money and do something else with it. And then finally, you have people that are dealing with health issues. So the last house I sold, I met them maybe 4 years ago, and the lady has MS. And so she's always had some issues in the house, but she was at the point where she couldn't stay in the home anymore and needed to go into some assisted living. So that prompted the sale of the house. And then we came in and did that. But so they waited until it was just the time to move, and then going to find an assisted living place takes several months to work through the government system to do that. And when they had a place for her that the family was comfortable with, they brought me in, and then we got the house fixed up. Okay, now we are at another quiz. So this one is on what is the reasons that you're thinking about a move. Let's see. Okay. And I'm just going to hang on a second. I'm just going to make this multiple choice, which I think I can do. Nope, I can't. Never mind. I'm not going to do that. It's going to maybe kick me out of here. So, okay. So can you see this one? Your main reason for a downsize, can you see that? Yes, no? Can you see the quiz?
No.
No, I just the page that says quiz 3, your main reason. Oh, there it comes now. Yes.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, all right, so we have some answers here. And here we are. So everybody is in a different place. And nobody answered the one that I get this fairly frequently. People get pressure from their family to make a move. That's very, very common. The kids come in and say, it's just time. This is just too much for you to take care of. So great. Okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. So everybody has their own line here. All right. Okay, now I am going to get rid of that. And somehow I lost my presentation here. Are you seeing a screen that says Zoom sign in?
No, just
No.
quiz 3.
Quiz 3. Oh, okay. All right. Okay, there we go. I wasn't seeing it. Now I am. All right, well, thank you for that. Was there any questions about other reasons why you might be making a move or?
No, I'd be interested in people who their family was pressuring them. That's interesting.
Yeah, and it is interesting. I'm dealing with a gentleman now, and his family is, I would say, what he has several daughters, and they are pulling him in different directions from where he thinks he wants to be. In some cases, I find in Canada that owning a property is a very important part of your self-worth. I think Canada has one of the highest per cap, in all of the world, people that own homes. And when you plan and have a family and everything, owning a home is such a strong part of our character that when you decide to move from a house you've been in a long time, some people feel they still need to own property. And that renting something or going into a retirement home is financially not as good for them as still keeping property. And this is where the tug of war is with the children in this situation, is that they want him to move into a retirement home. He's living independently now and feels that that is maybe premature and would rather buy a condo in the meantime so that he still keeps some financial equity in the real estate market. So that's where that tug of war is there.
I've just watched two friends who sold their houses, moved to rentals, and were unhappy, and then didn't know where to go next.
Yes, and that's a challenge with the rental market in Toronto. The rental market is very tough, and I'm not sure what kind of rentals your friends were in, but there's a fairly limited option available to people moving from a house and not wanting to buy another property.
And well, in one case, I think they just chose the wrong area.
Mhm.
And it was so far away from friends and family and everything. And the other person just wasn't happy downsizing.
Yeah. That's why you do this. Like, you guys are doing what I think is really important, and thinking through all of that. And, hopefully next year we can start to do the visits and properties and stuff and explore them in person again, because looking at them on a computer is one thing, but going there is another. And then feeling the pressure to act quickly is tough. And it is part of what the real estate market is like. Even in rentals, you have to make some quick decisions. Okay. So this is just to recap the financial pre-planning that we talked about before. And I've kind of broken this into a couple of different slides. So it's just to understand, so that you can pull together some numbers to budget, understanding the costs of a move if you are going to do a purchase. So say you're going to move to a condo or a townhouse or a bungalow, or buy a land lease property, but something where you're going to be doing a purchase. You decide on what the value of that purchase is based on recent sales in that same complex. This is very similar to how you value a house. You look at other recent homes that are like yours that have sold in your area, and you say, okay, based on that, I think your property is worth X, Y, Z. So you do that for a purchase side as well. In the GTA, the expectation in the market now is that you have to have a 5% deposit to secure that property when you make an offer. And that happens if you see something and you put an offer, you negotiate the offer. When the offer is accepted by the parties and you've come to an agreement, whether it's conditional or firm or whatever, within 24 hours to secure that, you have to give the seller 5%. And lots of people don't have that kind of cash available. So whether it's tied up in mutual funds or GICs or RIFs, or even if it's in like a bank like Tangerine where there's no physical bank outlets, you have to think about having that money on hand to secure a deposit for a purchase. And that 5% may surprise some people, because I bet you didn't have to put 5% down when you bought the house that you're in now. It was different then. And the reason it's 5% now is the home prices are so high. This is a demonstration of your ability to close, because the 5% would be your forfeiture should the sale not be finalized. Same way, if you're selling your house, we ask for a 5% deposit to make sure that the seller, the buyers come through and do the closing. And that's about what the standard is right now, give or take where you sell. There's a closing cost that is land transfer tax if you're doing a purchase. And that is, there's a Ontario land transfer tax and a City of Toronto land transfer tax. If you buy in Pickering, you only pay the Ontario land transfer tax. If you bought something in Toronto, you would pay the Toronto surcharge as well as the Ontario. And in total, it's about 2.5% of a purchase price in Toronto. It's about 1.3% of the purchase price if it was outside of Toronto. And that is a closing cost. So the lawyers pay that on closing, but you have to have that money on top of your purchase price. And there's land transfer tax calculators. It's a sliding scale, but the 2.5% and the 1.3% give you kind of a guideline of what to budget for. And then there's a lawyer fee. So you have to have a lawyer if you're doing a purchase or a sale, and they charge about $2,000, give or take a bit, because there's some disbursements in there to do the entire transaction.
So my question is, and aside from that, from your experience, how many people, when they downsize or move, buy another place versus renting? Is there a percentage either way?
I would say most of the people that I meet don't buy. They're at the stage where they move directly into a retirement residence, or they have another property that they would be moving to, or move in with family. And some of them rent, but they generally aren't doing a purchase.
Okay, thanks.
If you're looking at renting, so good segue, thank you, Arlene. If you're doing a rental, there's two different types of rentals that we talk about. The first would be a standard rental where you're either going into an apartment building or you are renting something privately from a person that has an investment property. The second one would be if you're going into a retirement residence, and they're treated differently. So if you are renting in the first situation, you need to have a deposit, which is the equivalent of your first and last month's rent, and you sign a lease for a year, and then you give the deposit over to secure it, and then you start paying rent on the first month of the rental property. What's quite common, I find, if you're renting, Arlene, is some people start to rent before they sell their house. So they may have to commit to a rental and pay rent the first few months just to secure it, because they sometimes move out first before they sell their house. So that I find is quite common in either of these situations, whether it's moving into a retirement residence or moving into a private rental. Because if they find a rental they like, they want to make sure they don't lose it. So
yeah, just thinking, if your house is too much to keep up, how many people actually buy another place, even though it's smaller? You're still encumbered with a lot of work.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on your outlook on things. There are a certain amount of people, like the gentleman that I'm working with now, that he is keeping buying something open just because he feels very strongly that having some of his money in the real estate market is a smart thing, rather than moving into a retirement residence where he feels he is just spending his hard-earned money. It's not doing anything for him.
So he's looking from an investment point of view, as opposed to downsizing so he has less work and things.
It's both. It's a bit of both for him. And he is independent enough that he doesn't really, a retirement residence, he's still cooking and driving and everything like that. So he's not at the point
ready for that, yeah.
Where he needs that support. if you move into a retirement residence or a specific seniors rental building, they ask for a less deposit. So you're renting from a property management company at that point. You do have to put a deposit down to secure that kind of thing, but usually it's a few $100s. It's not your first and last month's rent, which might be $5,000 in total. In a retirement residence or a seniors building, they will often, if you change your mind, let you out of it. If you're in a lease with a private person, if you sign a contract, you're bound to that. So if you're going into a retirement residence, basically you go on a wait list. They'll tell you if something comes up, you'll go in and you'll see it. If you like it, you'll give that $500 deposit or whatever to keep it for you. And then the rent kicks in when the rental agreement starts. But they are more flexible with letting you out of it. Or if you decide you go there and you don't like it, they'll keep you on the wait list. There's no penalties for you. It's a little different from a private rental. So the costs for those two are different to start. I will tell you that generally the monthly rents are higher for the retirement residence and the senior specific buildings than just a regular rental. But your deposit's lower. And I'll get into the rentals when we talk in the session about the properties more, but this is just so you understand what money you need to have on hand. Okay. The costs involved with selling, you would get whatever your home's value is based on what the buyers offer you. You need to have money set aside should you do any updates or renovations to your home. You need to have money set aside for the realtor fees, which are subject to HST. You need to have money set aside for the lawyer's fees. And you need to also have money set aside should you need to do any bridge financing between the two. Because a lot of times, Arlene, I meet people that want to do the move first, get out of the house, take what they want with them, settle, and then sell the house. So you have to have the money set aside to bridge those two properties together before the house equity comes out and your house is sold and you get that pot of money. So to do that, a lot of people don't have that much money in liquid cash. So in that case, you would have to go and get a home equity line of credit set up so that you have access to that to do either the renovations or to do the bridging, or to have the money set aside to do the deposits that we just talked about.
What percentage of people do renovation updates? And then the next question would be, what percentage of home sales do you stage versus kind of selling as is with furniture or without furniture? Are there any ways to go that are best?
Yeah, I'm going to say it will depend on the property and the market and what you're listing it for. So I generally do some things, and I consider home staging anywhere from doing repairs and painting to putting furniture in.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's a continuum. So if the house is in good shape in a desirable area, I generally try and do some things to make it look brighter and fresher. So if somebody hasn't painted for a while, or you may have a basement with, the 1970s paneling.
Yeah.
Do some paint there, because paint is your least expensive, best return on investment. Replacing carpet is something else that I do. In a lot of cases, I will keep some of the people's furniture in and add staging furniture to make it look more homey and not like you've plopped a brick showroom in a house that,
Okay.
is older.
So there are a lot of variables then.
There's a lot of variables. At the very least, you're removing old wallpaper, doing repairs and painting. Yeah, will help.
Okay.
So
Thank
this picture here, that was a vacant condo. And it was very neutral, but it had wallpaper, but that's all staging furniture in this particular picture. This is something I sold last fall. And it had carpet, but we cleaned the carpets and just made it spick and span and then brought in staging furniture.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually do a blend of things, but I usually do something. It's very seldom I move into a house and go, yeah, this is, perfect for putting it on the market for buyers.
Okay, thank you.
So some things to consider from the finance side of things. Make sure you have access to deposit money, so you've planned ahead for that, whether you're doing whichever scenario you're doing. Understand the monthly cost of renting versus buying so that you can budget for it and then project into the future. We'll go over some of those costs when we do the property side of things. Consider getting a line of credit for your renovations or bridging. I meet a lot of people that have a line of credit or still have a mortgage on the house, especially if they've been self-employed. So they have to take that into consideration of paying that off maybe. And then think about the reverse mortgages. If you really want to stay in your home, that is still a good option, especially with house prices being what they are now. Okay. Any other questions with the finance part of things? No. Okay. So what gets people stuck? Why do people put this off and then feel that it's so much pressure? I find that there's 3 categories that usually get people stuck. One is dealing with your stuff. It's just overwhelming. They don't know where to start. They don't know how to sort through it, and it holds people back. Number 2 is the housing option choice is unknown. They're not sure whether they should make the good choice. They talk to people like Arlene, like your friends. You hear those stories and you go, wow, I don't want to be in that situation. So I'm just going to defer my decisions, right? Because you don't want to be in their situation. It's very stressful.
Yeah.
And then the last is, where do you start in preparing your home? How much money do you put in? How do you know where to put the money? How do you start? How do you find the people that are reliable? How not to get ripped off? All of that stuff. All right. So those are really the 3 big things that stop people. We're going to talk about dealing with your stuff in the next session, going through how to sort, how to keep, where to donate, resources for help. And I'm going to share with you what I find that you can probably tackle right away. Everybody's got their own little secret hoard of things, whether it is keeping shampoo and conditioner from your trips from the hotels to taking those ketchup packages, all of those things. I'll share with you my most common things that I find that you can tackle right away and do that guilt-free. Also, somebody in the last session asked about selling books that they feel have some value. So is anybody here a collector of anything that they feel has some value that they're not sure what to do with? Do you guys have any of those type of things, like whether it's china or plates or books or records or anything like that?
Yeah, I have a set of china that I'm going to call that place downtown called Bernardi's.
Okay.
It's very old set of china that I am the 3rd generation. And I would just be interested to know if they're interested in. So I'm going to make an appointment to take a china down.
Okay, great. Yeah. So consignment's good for things like that. But some of the things like artwork or collections, they would take some research into making sure that it gets to a good home. I sold a house recently that the gentleman collected electronics. That was kind of his hobby. And the entire basement of the bungalow was filled with electronics. And so there was a lot of work done trying to make sure it didn't go into landfill. So moving on from the stuff, which we're going to talk about, let me know if you guys have any specific questions. You can email me so I can, have Claire get prepared for the next session. So the next thing is we're going to talk about a session in housing options. I found a few more that I can share with you. We're going to go over all the different styles of condos, life lease, land lease. We'll talk more about rent versus owning, seniors rentals, private rentals. What order do you do things? How does it all work? All of that stuff. Is there anything in housing options that you would like to know more about that I haven't covered on other sessions?
No, the information is all there. It's just making the decision, and
Yeah,
I'm putting it off.
yeah. One thing I've never done is I've never talked about retirement home options. And that is something I've got some more resources to at some point if you want to go directly from your house into a like a Chartwell or whatever, and how to pick that and what's involved in that. So if anybody's interested in that, you can let me know, and I can kind of do that in a separate section so you can get educated on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what keeps you guys stuck? We're almost at the end. Thanks for hanging in there. This is the last quiz. I'm curious to see what you guys have that might be keeping you stuck. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I read somewhere that you had written or was in one of your books was to start like just with one cupboard.
Yeah.
This article I read, like just do under the sink or just do the linen cupboard.
Yeah.
And I found that very helpful. And I've done the linen cupboard twice, so I could do it again. Even.
I like the linen cupboard too, because when you open the door, it looks so nice when it's all organized and folded.
Well, I never realized how many sets of sheets I have. I don't need all that.
Yeah. And if you've got sheets and things like that, don't throw them out. Quite often, humane societies take them, and there's also textile recycling bins that are Markham, and that's where I take old textiles for people.
Okay, because I had a call from the Diabetes Association. They're picking up some stuff next week.
Well, perfect. If they'll come to your house and take it away, all the better.
Yes. Yeah.
But if you have things that you don't feel are donatable, like, you get things that are ripped or, just their use, then there are places to do it where they don't have to go in landfill. Okay. All right, so I'm going to share the results. Everybody's voted. The votes are in, as they said on Family Feud. Okay. Good. Again, everybody's in a different place. This is great information. This helps me, talk in the next session.
Overwhelming. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does overwhelming and urgency go together?
Yes, it can, because the urgency puts pressure on you, which makes you feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. That really helps me with these presentations too. Okay. So we are at the end. So the next sessions, I'm doing a 2 and a 7. You can join either or both or skip. That's next Thursday. And I'm going to bring Claire back in to talk about decluttering. She is a decluttering and downsizing professional. She helps people sort through their stuff, sell their stuff, figure out what to do with their stuff. She also does packing and things like that as well. There are lots of professional companies that do that, and she's just a very lovely person to work with. On July the 14th, so first week in July, I'm going camping. The housing options we're going to do on July the 14th, and then talk about renovations and preparing your house for sale on July 21st. And as I said before, you don't necessarily have to do that in order for you to move forward, but I just put it together in this order for the presentation. And thank you very much. That's it.
That's great. Thank you. I hope I didn't take up too much time. I didn't hear from anybody else.
It's nice to know that I didn't put everybody to sleep.
No, it was great. It was really good.
How about everybody else? You're good? You're still awake?
Very good.
Good. All right. Well, thank you so much for participating. I really appreciate your time. And have a good weekend. And if you think of any other questions or anything I can add to this, you guys have my email. You can just pop me an email and I'll try and incorporate that in and answer questions next time.
Okay.
That's good. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to the next session on what to do.
Thank you, Sue.
On your stuff. Okay, thanks. Good night.
See you. Bye.